Matt, would you please describe your character?
Yes. You see a human man.
Oh, Matt, are you talking about me? Uh, Horror in Dungeons & Dragons is a gold mine of opportunity. From scary campfire stories, scary monster encounters with werewolves, or terrifying dungeons that risk character death. The amount of times you can scare a player can be unlimited, but you definitely need the right resources to do so. Yeah, you can dim the lights, add tension music, and shine a flashlight under your face, but the main key to scaring a player in D&D all comes down to setup. Having a revenant jump through the tavern window when you thought you were safe is scary, don't get me wrong, but that's treated more like a jump scare than a build-up, especially if your players weren't expecting anything scary in the moment. This isn't a bad thing, of course, but for this video, I'm going to break down a way to make your players' heart race for a full session. I'm going to make them scared to move forward in this haunted town I've built. Welcome to Pullbone. And ahoy! I'm the D&D Hunter. I'm definitely just a regular human man, and not a mind flayer with a fake mustache. If you've been told that I am a mind flayer, please let me know who told you that. I'm trying to track someone down. This video is a little bit different from my other videos here. Instead of giving you guys tips and tricks, I'm actually building a full one-shot for you. A session I've done many times, and it's caused a lot of scary moments for my players, perfect for the Halloween season. It all takes place in the haunted town of Pullbone. Pullbone is what I call this very tiny haunted town. It's a small village in the woods I wrote for a Halloween one-shot many years ago, and it proved to be effective after scaring my players that ventured through it. Within the years, I've actually returned to Pullbone many times to tweak it up a little bit, and I've had 3 completely different parties of adventurers go through it, each doing new things and each becoming frightened. So I figured, why not share this little haunted town I've made with you guys, and maybe you can use it for your own party. Pullbone can be used as a one-shot or fit right into your main campaign you're doing right now. I have experience doing both of these things and both work great. Before we jump into the town and I go through it all, I'd like to kind of give you a story of how this was set up originally. When I was a young human in high school, I was in a class called Outdoor Ed. It was an optional class where we got to go camping and stuff while learning how to survive in the outdoors. I'm from... So most of this was building snow shelters and starting fires for the winter. Every so often our class would do little one-night camping trips out in the wilderness. I remember so well this one time we were out in the woods, not a campground or anything, just in the forest near a small town that I grew up in. We had set up our shelters and had fires going, and we all sat around as my outdoor ed teacher would talk to us about the plans for the morning or something like that. Until suddenly, as we sat around the fire, we heard something. Bells ringing. Almost like church bells, far away to the point that our voices would drown it out, but if we were quiet enough, we can hear these bells. I remember us all shushing each other, trying to figure out what this was and where it was coming from. My teacher even looked honestly a little scared overhearing this. We were in the middle of nowhere in the woods. Why would we be hearing bells? It honestly was a little scary, but since there was a bunch of people here, a full class plus a teacher, we were kind of able to sort of laugh and make jokes about it, which helped us calm down. Still though, where did these bells come from? In the morning, we discovered it turns out we weren't as far away from town after all. We learned that we were near a church that was set outside of our town. Those bells came from the church bells that had them going off at night for whatever reason, which is actually kind of weird looking back at that. Anyways, the same feeling is how Pullbone begins. Your players may camp, the woods are quiet, and then suddenly as they rest, they hear the sounds of distant church bells. They can't ignore this and wait until morning, or they can follow the sound through the trees. Either way, they'll eventually find a small clearing and a few weathered wooden buildings with a church at the end and a bell that still rings. A town that doesn't appear on any maps, a town nobody's ever heard of, a town called Pullbone. Pullbone looks like something out of an old Western cartoon. A single dirt road cutting through a cluster of wooden buildings, leading to a faded church at the far end of it. On the left side of the street, there are 3 buildings. On the right, there are 2, plus a fenced-off graveyard. And just past the trees, you can barely make out a windmill spinning slowly and lazily in the distance with a high perception roll. Let's take a walk and I'll explain what each of these buildings are. I treat Pullbone kind of like a sandbox where I let my players choose where they want to go. First store is this one here. It's a general store with a sign that hangs crooked and dusty in the window with the name of the building that says "So Long General." Inside is an elderly man with sunken eyes and a long neck that greets you. Good night. Welcome to my general store. What can I get for you? His name is General Thornburn. He sells the usual supplies like rope, lanterns, rations, but there's something off about him. His skin looks dry like parchment, and he speaks in that tired monotone voice. Kind of like the real dad in Coraline. If your players ask about the town, he shrugs and says, "Well, Pullbone's always been here." Next door sits a long triangle-shaped building with a sagging deck, the Full Mug's Tavern. Inside, it's kind of warm and dimly lit, smelling faintly of venison stew. The owner is a timid gnome named Wendelskin Beauregard Smithy III. He's an overtly polite but nervous around strangers type of character. He serves ale and warm food, rents rooms for the night, and constantly glances out the windows. Something outside clearly frightens him, but he refuses to say what that is. Wendelskin is also the cousin to another character in the town named Twippy who lives in the windmill, but we'll get to Twippy later in this video. At the end of the street stands a smaller building with an open forge and embers that have long cooled. A half-orc named Orak works here, polishing swords and forging headstones. Graveyard headstones. He's quiet, solemn, and it looks like he hasn't slept in days. If pressed, he admits that his daughter Olivia actually went missing 3 days ago, but he doesn't really want to talk about it, but it's still making him lose sleep. Of course, the truth is far worse than this, because Orak actually sacrificed her to the death god known as Kelembor, believing that she would be reborn stronger. Her body lies hidden, burned into the walls of a nearby abandoned home. Let's actually head there right now. On the other side of the street is this abandoned home. Across the road, one building stands dark and silent. Inside there's a faint smell of rot, but there's no dust. On the walls, scratched in shaky handwriting, are the words "I am sorry" repeated over and over. A successful investigation check reveals Olivia's frozen body is hidden behind a false wall, her skin pale blue and frostbitten. If the players do find her, Orak might actually appear at the door whispering that this was all to help her ascend, before Olivia starts to twitch, crack, and rise again, undead. This could be a time for combat. Whether Orak planned this or not is up to you. Maybe he is an innocent father who did think that she would be reborn stronger, or maybe Orak was always planning on you to find her, for her to attack you, and maybe you would also eventually be buried within these walls that Orak planned. Moving on, the next home is the Empty family home. Martin, Mary, Maria, and their son Charlie Empty live here. When the players pass by, the family all watch silently through the windows. They don't smile, their eyes just follow. They have pale skin, their eyes sunken, and red hair. If spoken to, Martin nervously offers the group 300 gold to babysit young Charlie for the night while they go hunting. The family never plans on coming back though. That simple babysitting quest will lead the players into a deeper nightmare of Pullbone. We'll come back to this later. Let's move on to the next area first. Behind an iron fence sits Pullbone's graveyard. When first discovered, it's actually empty. There's just grass here. But later in the session, if your players pass by it again, you'll notice unmarked gravestones have appeared here. The number of gravestones equal the number of players at the table. And at the end of the road sits a church turned into town hall, painted white and blue with a black shingled roof and a bell at the top that was ringing earlier. Inside sits Jarl Saifa, the town's cold but elegant ruler. She lounges on a throne, very relaxed, sipping a red wine, while her half-elf assistant Oscar Reg stands guard. Saifa greets the adventurers like guests that she's actually been expecting. She explains that Orak's daughter went missing and that a farmer named Twippy has been losing crops. She offers 300 gold just to help the town in general, and if needed, grants permission to, well, kill if a problem arises. She explains that Pullbone doesn't have prisons and she doesn't want any problems to be lingering. Behind the church and through the trees lies a crooked blue windmill surrounded by cornfield. There's a scarecrow in the center of the field, and beside it, a hunched little gnomish man sleeps on the stairs of the windmill. This is Twippy, the local farmer. He's odd, he's frantic, and when you arrive, he actually counts everyone's feet before he speaks. He swears that wolves have been stealing his crops, but admit he's never actually seen a wolf before. He gestures forward to the field, saying, "I built that scarecrow to scare off the wolf, but it keeps hobbling away." By the time you look to see what he's pointing at, the scarecrow that you passed by before is actually gone. Moments later, you see it stands upright in the cornfield very suddenly, tilts its head, and bolts into the stalks. Wherever this scarecrow passes, the corn withers and dies. Is Twippy going crazy? Is the scarecrow a potential fight happening? Or is there something else looming within the cornfield? Is there a clown in the cornfield? I watched this movie last night, and it was I mean, it wasn't that bad. I was gonna make a joke, but it's I don't recommend it, but I mean, it wasn't bad. And that's the town itself. A few odd quests here and there that seem to pay well enough, right? It's full of opportunity and an overall mystery that's building. As a dungeon master, your job is to really put effort into getting your players concerned about the few citizens here. Whether they find Olivia's body or not, they should get the feeling that this town is really creepy, like its citizens have been awaiting you to arrive. Especially the Empty family, who really needs that babysitter. Let's actually cut back to them real quick. If they decline this babysitting job, Martin Empty would find the players again to request it once more, maybe raising the price again, going, I have a job for you, please. He offers more gold this time, 600 gold to watch his son Charlie overnight. Once the players eventually accept, the parents and the older daughter grab their larger bags and head off to go hunting. If your players watch them leave, describe that once the family hit the tree line, they enter a full-on sprint, not looking back as they escape from Pullbone and their own son Charlie, who seems confused but harmless. The Empty family always did seem a little bit afraid of their younger son. Charlie would ask a few questions to the players, very innocently enough, before heading off to bed. Describe Charlie to be rather afraid at first, but once bedtime hits and it gets dark, Charlie is giggling with an echoed voice that's hard to follow. In the middle of the night, the players hear footsteps on the ceiling. They rush upstairs, but Charlie's not in his bedroom anymore. He's gone. You can do investigation to see burned footprints are on the ceiling, leading across and out the door, down to the kitchen and into a cabinet. When they open that cabinet beneath the sink, they don't find storage or garbage. They find a straight drop 40 feet down, a faint echo of giggling that calls from below. Charlie's beckoning them to follow, it seems. Charlie is trying to get through this cabinet, but I understand some players could be very perceptive and catch Charlie before he gets here. If that's the case, you can reveal that Charlie is actually a magman, which is obviously different from a little human boy that he appeared to be beforehand and would explain why his family was so afraid of him. But are they trying to kill Charlie or save him? In the end, he is just a kid, after all. Chaotic neutral, according to the 5th edition monster manual. Anyways, whether they caught Charlie beforehand or not, I'm sure your players would investigate this home that they're watching, and with a low investigation roll, they would find this cabinet leading into this sudden abyss down below. You descent down in any way the players find works best. The players enter an old mineshaft. It splits left and right, both ways wrong. One path leads to piles of coal that look disturbingly human shape. Crack the coal and you'll find flesh beneath. Another path leads to a false treasure room, a mimic's lair. But all roads lead to the same place in the end, a throne made of coal-shaped people twisting together, their mouths open as if they were in a scream. And sitting in front of it, applying makeup in a cracked mirror, is Jarl Sypha. She looks up calmly before getting a bit of a surprise to see the players enter. You can tell that she's feeding on the coal, or the souls trapped within at least. Her hands and mouth are stained with charcoal. "I don't suppose a bribe would work, would it?" she says. As her skin begins to darken, her voice fractures as she starts to transform into her true form. A night hag. The final fight begins. So how do you actually run Pullbone? Like I said, it's a sandbox here, so think of it like a pressure cooker. You don't want constant scares, you want a slow burn. If you're a horror movie fan like myself, run this more like Hereditary, where everything builds to the finale, and less like Insidious, where the scares start off fast.
What?
Start small. The shopkeeper's eyes flicker wait for a second. The tavern's fire burns blue. The bells ring even though the church door is still shut. Make them question everything. If this is a one-shot, you can kind of layer this out into 3 hours. Hour 1 is arrival and the subtle unease. Hour 2 is the discovery, whether that's Olivia's body, the scarecrow, or the family's disappearance into the woods as you're left watching young Charlie here. Hour 3 is the descent into the mineshaft and discovering that Jarl Sypha is a hag. If this is part of your campaign, stretch it out more. Let them leave, only to realize that the forest loops back to Pullbone, because Pullbone doesn't want them to leave. It seems the only way out is to defeat Jarl Sypha or burn the town down. Remember, not everything needs to have a full explanation. Like, who put those gravestone heads there? Was it the blacksmith? Or does nobody truly know? Maybe the town itself made it for him. Leave the mystery unanswered at times. And Pullbone can end a few different ways, depending on how you want to leave your players feeling. There's the classic ending, where the players defeat Sypha, the cold bodies crack open, revealing the freed souls as they whisper, "Thank you." But outside, the bell starts ringing again. There's a time loop ending where they escape the forest and walk straight back into Pullbone. The tavern lights glow again, and Stormburn waves out his window, and the empty family's all back inside, all watching, waiting for you to request that babysitting job once again. Or there's the lingering effect ending, where they make it home, safe and sound, until one night they hear distant bells ringing, or see that scarecrow outside their window. Pullbone doesn't kill everyone, remember? Sometimes it just, well, remembers. And that's Pullbone, the smallest haunted town you'll ever run, but one your players will never forget. Keeping this town small helps the players remember literally everything about this town, which gives it more of a sandbox feel as they're running around, knowing everything, not being like, was there any other buildings? Was there any more of this? Was there any other characters we missed? Because no, everything's right here. Horror in Dungeons & Dragons isn't all about shock and gore, at least not all the time. It's about silence, tension, and dread. It's about the moments when your players realize something is watching them, and it's been there the whole time. If you end up running Pullbone, I'd love to hear how your players handled it, and what scared them the most. Come back to this video and comment below how it went, and what changes you made to this little town. Guess I should probably mention, I totally don't expect you guys to go back and rewatch this video, pausing and writing everything I've mentioned down. I have written Pullbone in an adventure module-like format that you can find in the link in the description of this video here. Feel free to use this for your own one-shot or your own campaign. You can copy and paste this into your own notes and rewrite some things if you like. Maybe you want to add a building, maybe you want to add another character, maybe you just want to get rid of Twippy. Maybe you don't like Twippy and you don't want him in this town. Do whatever you'd like to do for this adventure here. The document is in the link in the description. And if you like this video, I've got more spooky D&D videos coming up, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. I absolutely love horror. It's my favorite genre in movies, and it's my favorite thing to do in Dungeons & Dragons. Actually, if you check out my channel, the first video I ever posted on here was about how to run horror in campaigns. This wasn't that long ago too, as I'm a very new channel here. This was only a couple months ago, and I have a lot of other horror idea videos coming soon. So stay tuned, check it out, and until next time, sleep tight, adventurers, because you never know when the bells might start ringing again.